Hey, I'm Duke on Twitch. If you want to support the channel and greensunzenith.com, you can find my Patreon, merch store, and singles store where you can buy singles through TCG Player or Card Hoarder in the video description. If you want to get in contact, you can also find all that info in the description below for things like donation deck lists or just wanting to reach out. Alright, let's get right into it.
Hey team, welcome back to Dukes on Twitch. Back today with Green White Depths. I think the list that I would probably take to Eternal Weekend. I obviously don't have that chance, but I think that Green White Maverick, or Green White Depths I should say, has a lot of upsides at the moment. There's obviously a fair amount of Frog and Eldrazi running around, which are two decks you want to have decent matchups against. I wouldn't say that we are favored against either, especially Eldrazi, which typically is make them stumble and then see if you can capitalize. It's a little bit harder as well with Kozilek's Command, which I believe exiles a creature, which means that for 2 mana they can exile Marilage. So in decks like Mav, I've been probably more so towards Teague in the main deck over Collector Ouphe in that kind of 2-drop hate best slot, because the Karn Forge deck that's running around with Mystic Forge, the One Ring, Karn the Great Creator, Grim Monoliths, etc. If you get Teague down, it'd be pretty hard to stop game 1 because their only removal is Kozilek's Command, which can be stopped by Teague, and then they can't really win through anything after that. So I guess Saga. Urza's Saga is their way to win if a Teague hits the field. The upside of Ouphe, of course, is that if something has already hit the field, then it might do something. So it might turn off the ring. It might turn off other things. But of course, you know, Karn into Lattice or Kozilek's Command to remove it, viable options. So I think it's pretty important if you are playing Eternal Weekend to play a deck that you know well, that potentially has an I win button like this. I would say it's pretty close to Cradle control in a way that it does have a mid-range plan, but you also just have a I win button, which is really nice. The mana, although is 2 color, you do run some cards like Maze of Ith, Dark Depths, of course, so you are kind of splashing on colorless. But essentially, I feel like the mana base here with the 1 plains and 2 forests is really strong. You then have the 2 Savannahs and Lush Portico to go a little bit wider. And then, yeah, you obviously have cards like Karakas and Bog and Wasteland, etc. for crop targets, so that's pretty good. Yeah, I think right now it's pretty important to just understand the power of winning out of nowhere. And although Maverick did that for a little while by running its own set of Dark Depths and Thespian stage, I do think that the deck that's going to put up the better results is most likely Depths, because you do have both that mid-range plan, you do have, you know, decent Green Suns targets, and then, yeah, you obviously just have a really powerful way to close out the game early on. So Maverick, yeah, I think there's always a time to shine for Maverick, but it's tough when the deck to hate out is quite hard to hate out. So, you know, Eldrazi is pretty hard to put down like a specific card that beats it. It's not like you play Collector Ouphe against 8 cast, you play Gadokti against Storm, you play, Ramunap against potentially lands or other depth decks. Eldrazi is one of those ones where it's really quick and you just gotta play it a bunch and get a really good understanding of like when it is right to Wasteland, or when, you know, the Wasteland is more important to you to hit your 3rd mana to play a bigger knight than their creatures, or kind of knowing like with Swords to Plowshares as well, which creatures to hit. You only have so much removal, so I think, yeah, knowing how to, knowing the role of your resources is pretty huge in matchups like Eldrazi. So yeah, the other thing that I like about this is that I would say that Wasteland is going to be pretty prevalent at Eternal Weekend. So having access to Ramunap is what I really like. It's a Green Sun will loam in a way, so you can find it when you need it, which is great. I was playing around with Urza's Saga because, especially since Lava Spur Boots got printed, there's been a few pretty good hits that you can get off it. You can also win the game with it. I think that, you know, having a one-of Saga in the deck is pretty great, especially with the crop rotation effects, with, you know, the ability to get it back. It just gives that other kind of plan in a way, but I found it a little bit awkward at times knowing when to go for Dark Depths when to keep the mana around for your sort of green creatures, and when to just go for the Saga plan. Because although Jeskai control isn't seeing too much play, Wrath of the Skies is a pretty big printing for them to deal with Saga, which is where I typically liked it, because you could just play a Saga and kind of just breeze through while they're, Swords to Plow showing tokens, and then you start applying your threats to the field, which they can't deal with. So I would say the big change here is the second Talons in the list, which you don't often see because you obviously have Echoing Deeps, which can copy your Talons as well. But after playing Cradle Control and after watching Newton play, I felt like on top of the maze, I really wanted a second Talons, because you can obviously use it to take out an opposing blocker or threat, but you can also use it to save your own creatures, which is pretty cool. So the second Talon is kind of like a second step, kind of like a second maze, but it just... Yeah, I think as well, people just don't expect the second Talons, which is nice. A lot of the time at the start of Green White Depths, a lot of people didn't expect the second Sejiri Steppe, and that can really get people. So I think sometimes playing a list a little bit off color or off brand can help you. And I think that's one small thing. I also, with the talk of Wasteland and Maze of Ith obviously being a really nice answer for a lot of the threats, if not all of the threats outside of blue black reanimator, outside of probably Archon of Cruelty, because it gets that trigger on attack. I do like Ramunap because you get back the maze, so your opponent only has access to 4 wastelands, and yeah, just making sure that you can make additional use of mazes, or even Talon. We had a pretty sweet game where we were able to wasteland our own Talon, play Ramunap, and get the Talon back from the graveyard to find lethal. That's pretty cool. So I think Ramunap just giving you access to the graveyard as an additional resource is just too good, because sometimes it is just better than Night. It gets the land straight away, and yeah, I think it holds pretty true. The sideboard, some kind of newish cards like Ground Seal is a card that I've been seeing around, and I didn't realize that it actually doesn't affect us, because Endurance, Bojuka Bog, and Ramunap don't actually target lands or cards in graveyards. Ramunap is obviously play a land. Bog is target creature, just like Endurance. So Ground Seal is kind of nice because it replaces itself, which is great. Postboard against blue-black because it can get a little bit grindy. And then we also have Ghost Vacuum, which I think is pretty good. I do like that it obviously just exiles target card, which currently is pretty relevant in terms of reanimate or animate dead, so you can target your own stuff. The 6 is pretty much flavor text. It might come up, but I do like that. Yeah, it's obviously a 1 mana play as well. The Baubles and the Deafening Silences are kind of split because I kind of see them playing the same sort of role. I do like Deafening Silence against the Karn Forge decks on the play, and Vexing Bauble is just nice against the kind of Lotus Petal decks. Days and Force decks if I really want to go that route. Fairy, obviously really strong at what it does. We've been seeing on stream a few blue-black players bringing in Pithing Needle and naming Fairy Macabre in the blind, which is pretty wild. 2-path is pretty normal. The Collector Ouphe and the Teague in the sideboard, I think, is just a bit of a double up for decks like the Forge deck. Purge, I think, is nice because I do expect some amount of Moon Stompy. I think it's a relatively easy deck to pick up, and it also won Eternal Week in Asia. And I like that Purge is a card that works both for blue-black Reanimator and also mono-red. It's also a way that if you want to fetch up a Swords through a Plains on turn 1 to enter a threat, and then they come down with Moon before you get a green source, it is another way to be able to exile Blood Moon with just a Plains, which is nice. But yeah, Gadok Teague, I think, has been putting in a lot of work, and honestly, there was a point where I was trying to find space for Teague in the main deck, just to have some sort of Green Sun's target that did stop my opponents from doing a lot of things, especially if you're up against like Cradle Control, any sort of Storm deck, any sort of Jeskai deck. Like if you're turning off Prismatic Ending, you're turning off Leyline Binding, you're turning off Supreme Verdict Terminus if they're playing it, Wrath of the Skies, that really only leaves Swords to Plowshares for the removal, which is pretty phenomenal. Dress Down always messes with that, but I do like how that goes. So yeah, pretty keen to see how this goes. I still like Liberator in the main deck. I think there's still a few hits. If you can snag an Animate Dead, that's always nice, because otherwise that card's a little bit dead in the blue-black matchup. But yeah, I think it's important to have that in the main deck. I play Liberator because it's green sunnable more than Boseiju. Boseiju a little bit rough without a loam, because you don't really have a way to put it into your hand. Crop, Reclaimer, and Knight, and Ramunap all put them into play. So it's hard to actually find the Boseiju when you need it. So that's why I like having the Liberator. Also, the ongoing value of Liberator is pretty sweet. Eternal Weekend, nice. But hey, I hope you're all well. Hope you're having a great weekend. A lot of content going up on YouTube at the moment. I try to span it every 2 days. Is kind of the time span between uploads, but have a lot more going up for the Green Suns Summit the other week, which was, yeah, really fun. But yeah, it's tricky. I wouldn't say that Green-White Depths is positioned like up there, but I think if it's a deck you've been playing and you've been playing as like a F&M deck or a local deck, then having that experience behind it can really help, because yeah, sometimes your opponents just might not know how to play against depths, or might not know some of the newer cards like Talon Gates. This could be their first time at Eternal Weekend, so. Very cool to see Fosto at the top as well. I believe we're going to be potentially doing a co-stream coming up, which is pretty sweet. They reached out. So yeah, big shout out to all the Brazilian players. I know Brazil has a pretty awesome Eternal scene. All right. On the draw, with a pretty decent hand, and we've also signed up with the wrong deck. We're gonna play a league with this, and then I believe what we've done is, I saw the Eternal Weekend, which I was just thinking of, but it's called Green-White Depths, not Eldrazi, not this deck. That's all good. We'll see how this plays out. A huge congratulations to this player as well, UG Ida, for their 13th place finish with Maverick. Okay. Pretty happy just for Bayou here into Green Suns for Dryad Arbor. Hey Spyman, very well, thank you. Hope you're doing well. We did just enter a league with the wrong deck, but that's all good. This could end up being pretty fun. Interesting. We're gonna go with the Windswept for Lush. Just hold up Bowmaster here around days. This is most likely going into the graveyard. Here I'm also happy just to jam the Bowmaster, because I want to untap and probably play the Knight. Well, that's pretty tough. Obviously that's just a sequencing issue. And just thinking about, let's go for the Orc. Okay. It's not too scary, as we have the swords, which is nice. Pitched another Murktide. I think it's just Maze this turn. Can Knight the following turn. It could be a Stifle deck, potentially. Okay. Interesting. Pretty happy just to shove the endurance here. I'm gonna target no one. I don't really want them having the force of the Fatal Push back. I guess more the Fatal Push. And I want to keep this Knight pretty big as well. Could Green Suns for Grist, but I really like just going for Knight here. Hey Panda, welcome. Hope you're doing well. Also don't want to grow the Murktide, that's very true. I think upkeep here is going to take out the green source. Okay. Now one card left. Hyrule not the worst. It allows me to potentially play around days the following turn. And Grist on this board with only one card in our opponent's hand is pretty nice. Still one card for them. Quick look. I honestly don't mind just getting a white here. I could also just beta days, and then we have the next one for... Okay. Happy to hold the endurance back as well in case they have like a flash creature. I don't think they would, but I don't want to lose the Grist. I guess Bowmaster just deals with the Grist anyway. Interesting. They played the land, so now we have free reign. I don't think Ooze. So we currently have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 creatures, which is pretty good for white of the Reliquary, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lands. I like that white's also bigger than a Murktide, and I believe this is just lethal next turn as well, even if they don't fetch. 3 and 9 is 12. So even if we got Ooze, they could obviously just fetch in response. Maybe that was the play though, because they didn't do anything in response. That is something we want to deal with. In case they run like main deck Thoughtseize, I will allow them to draw a card. Wasteland. I think we're just going after green mana here. Probably. Yeah. Okay. Ooh, I don't believe we have... I mean, Endurance here is pretty good because it also turns off Murktide, which is what I'm a little bit worried of. Grist would be sweet, yeah. It's a really interesting list that they played. That's just another land, which is great for us. Interesting, they're going to go after our white sources. I think the land is better for us at this point. 1, 2, 3. Like they can make a 3/3 Murktide at the moment, but it's fine. We have a 3/4. To be able to like Bowmaster around days is pretty nice. So this is a really grindy matchup. I like the chokes. I don't like a whole lot more. Like the Ouphe is a pretty easy cut. Potentially the Liberator, but I assume they're a Beans deck, so we might keep that in. We have the Decays as well, but I could see a Decay coming out. Like even to something like this. It's a world where I don't mind Plague Engineer, especially after seeing Baleful Strix, as just a nice way to make sure that they're staying off the board, but Plague otherwise isn't the greatest. I'm pretty happy just submitting this. A little bit awkward with mana, but I don't mind it. This isn't really a matchup where you want to mulligan too aggressively. Okay. I do want to... I don't have to deal with the Tamiyo here because of the Grist. But I don't mind getting it off the board. Okay, so it is a bean deck. I'm also just going to cast this right now. I don't want them to be able to brainstorm in response or something like that. Yeah, I think potentially a little bit low. I would like to find more ways to create creatures. Like obviously Grist, there's also Spring Heart. I think Cradle Control is the optimal home for it because of all the mana dorks. 4 Nobles, 4 Ignobles, 2 Dryad Arbors, 4 Reclaimers, 2 to 3 Safekeepers. But I do like that white is both pressure and disruption in the best way possible, in that it has vigilance, and then you can tap, obviously at your own accord. Okay, Wasteland's fine. Because of that Bayou, I'm pretty happy to go after their green mana. Just get in there. Oh, this might be Murderous Cut. Okay. White would be fantastic here. Scrubblin's not bad either. It means we can hide the white. There's also the thought of playing the white to hold up Sword around Daze this turn and then untap and 3-drop. Like if they go like Fetch land, Fatal Push, that's 4. They can't, actually. I think it's just Bayou. If they want to Wasteland us here, they don't take us off a color. Okay. Wasteland's interesting because it takes them off black, but I think here we really want to try to move towards... I think because of Wasteland on us, up to we Wasteland, just sets us back so much that I'm happy to throw the Knight into a Daze, but not the Grist. Apologies. Tide's fine. No land is pretty huge. I don't mind here trying to get the Grist in play. I don't really want to allow them to gain 6 life here. We currently race, which is pretty funny. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I was thinking about holding the plow up. I didn't want to cast the Grist and the plow in the same turn because I didn't want either to get dazed. Especially at that point. That was my only consideration. I think we're just going to run this back. Okay. A little bit awkward on mana if we don't hit... If they remove the Dryad Arbor. But I think overall it's decent. I'm going to play the Wasteland here because it plays around Daze. And then upkeep, I'm happy to Bowmaster. Okay. Okay. Start with white. Another force. Play Lush. Pretty happy to bottom that. And then I'm pretty happy to take them off. I think black here. Black's for removal, green for like another up. Another beanstalk would be pretty rough. Okay. That's actually pretty nice. We'll get Scrubland because it turns on all colors. And just hold this up. Best case is it flips. Worst case is they make use of the one up the beanstalk before we remove it. Okay. Now, if they have Murderous Cut, I want to respond to the fetch land, but if they just have Fatal Push, then I don't want to. Okay. I feel like this could be Heartbringer. And if it is, I don't. Oh, okay. Interesting. Maybe just trying to fuel a Murktide. No. Okay. I don't want to attack here either. I guess I could see if they want to double block and then swords, but I kind of just want to flip the Trap Breaker. Frog's fine. Okay. Could have played that before combat to get the Exalted trigger, which is just correct. Also a little bit greedy, but I don't want the Frenzy to trip, so I'm going to allow them to draw and then swords. Okay. Well, they had the force anyway. Okay. Interesting. It's actually a tough one because like Grist isn't great, of course. Endurance isn't the worst. They have 2 cards. Okay, they have one card. I think now it has to be Endurance. Make sure the frog can't fly. Green Sun Zenith is a very cool card for sure. It's definitely not the same as, say, Court of Calling. It's just a little bit better in flexibility. I think it's really what differentiates the deck from other creature decks, because you can pivot pretty quickly thanks to Green Suns. Hey, Coderific, a huge thank you for the sub. Hope you're doing well. Not too sure if this one will end out two in our favor, so we might be going to depths after this. Okay, tap like this. A Bowmaster would be kind of nice. Barrogoyf isn't too bad either. Hopefully they didn't keep it days. They didn't. Weird song. Interesting. They fatal push the Noble Hierarch. Okay. Interesting. But I feel like the Harbinger might, like with what we have on board, it's just so strong. Like, sure, we have all islands, but yeah, I think we do as well, especially with the life gain. Can't attack here. I guess they, from the cantrips, they knew. Yeah. I don't think we have, like, it'd have to be planes and hope they don't have more, but we can drop this and then enter with the correct deck. But I'm going to go back to the bathroom real quick. I'll be back in a second. let us change decks to green, white, depths. Nice. There we go. All is right in the world. All right, Bomber Man. I think what I want to do this league is just really make sure the plays I'm making are relevant somewhat. This is a pretty greedy keep. Like I would say, it's pretty much a mulligan to 6 with the second Knight. But we do have things like Green Suns for Dryad Arbor. We do have a white mana if we really need it. That I don't mind seeing how it goes out on the draw. On the play, I probably wouldn't keep it, because with the Mox Diamond, I'd want to have at least 3 lands. But on the draw, we'll see how this plays out. Marsh Flat's a little bit scary. That makes me think of like a... like a reanimation deck, but we can't do too much there. I think we're still just going to go play the swords, or play the Mox to hold up the swords. Also play this all around days. And Green Suns for Dryad Arbor. There is a thought of going towards Reclaimer for 2 mana, but just in case this is like an Entomb Reanimate deck, I do want to have the swords up. I believe we are playing 30 lands as well. Yeah, so we have a pretty high count. Interesting, so it is going to be probably blue-black. Well, most likely. Well, definitely. Okay. Interesting. The question here is, how much do I respect days? And I think I respect it enough that I want to untap here, because swords is currently our only way to deal with the frog. Okay. That's pretty nice. That's a mana, which is pretty sweet. So I think he will start with swords. Force a negation. Play this. This comes back in their upkeep. Force negation is something to think about game 1 versus blue decks. Typically they take it out. I don't think I have the resources to get Safekeeper just yet. And I like that Reclaimer at least goes towards the combo. Like if I'm losing a land to Safe here, I'm down to 3 mana, which means I'm not playing around days with the Knights. No good blocks here. A land off the top would be fantastic, because it means we can cast a Knight for 3 and hold up 2 mana for Reclaimer. If they pick up on that and they daze the Knight, then it's a very interesting question of, do we keep the Knight? Prismatic ending, wow. Okay. Oof. Okay. Yeah, definitely a tough one. Like blue-black with white for removal is going to be a pretty big challenge for a deck like green-white. For this matchup, I assume they're going to be a Daze deck, so I don't mind the baubles on the play. I like the Purge and potentially the 2 paths. I'm not too sure if they're on the reanimation line. I assume not with the Teferi, but you never know. We are still at 18. We do have some decent draws as well with the combo. We haven't seen Wasteland. I think if you take away the natural order package, then from Cradle Control compared to Maverick, then it's tough because they'd have to replace with something because the deck is currently built towards natural order. So it's kind of a tough one because I'm not too sure what the deck would look like without natural order. Because you pretty much have a bunch of mana and creatures that find lands. Shuffled the first one. Chose not to shuffle. Prismatic. I'm gonna hold this. I really want to see some more from the deck. Like, do we have to worry about reanimate? Another frog. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Yikes. Okay. So we obviously saw Frog, so I'm leaning towards the pass and the Urge. The Baubles and the Vacuum are interesting, but not necessarily relevant. I don't mind going down on Crops in this matchup. The Liberator's nice as a just in case, but I would assume the opposing deck is playing something like Harboring of the Seas over Back to Basics, and that's probably the one thing I care about. They could have like a Grafdigger's Cage, but it doesn't really stop the deck, which is nice. So I don't mind cutting down to a library as well, seeing that they're on Bowmaster. I think I will try out the Baubles. Ramunap's still nice, Endurance still nice, Knight's still nice. Knight a little bit slow, but I don't want to go down too heavily on actual threats. Could be a Bog. They don't seem like they're on the reanimation part of the deck. I think we've just got to cut our chances and go, if they have something that Liberator hits, then that's just life. Then it might just be a Knight, just because it is a little bit slow. A very reactive hand, unfortunately, that I don't think it's good enough. Okay. Guess we bottom a Yav. A tough one though, because Library on turn 2 is much obviously slower than turn 1, where they could Prismatic Ending it, they have Bowmaster. Yeah, that's cool. I think like knowing what the deck would be without natural order as well with that question is a big thing. I'm happy to jam the library. A cantrip here is pretty fantastic for us because I don't believe they then have a 1-mana way to deal with the library. Which means just taking 8 straight away off the library most likely is pretty appetizing. I'll put this on top but pay for this. And then I think we're just going to go... Maze taps for mana, which is nice. Question is, do I want to play it just yet? I might just go with the Windswept because we know about the Savannah on top. Start with Safekeeper. And then just because of Harbinger, I am going to fetch here for Forest. And then at worst case, we can sacrifice the Flagstones to go and get the Plains. Okay. Footsies is fine. Bowmaster here isn't the worst, but it is a little bit annoying. Here's a good question. If you Talon Gate, if your opponent reanimates your creature and then you phase it out, do you then get it back, being the owner, or does the controller get it back? Controller, okay. Okay, that's pretty nice. I think here I'm just happy to see if they have a Bowmaster. I assume they don't because of what's in play. Okay. Like, surely if they had Bowmaster, they'd go after our stuff in either their end step or our upkeep. I think here as well, I might be inclined to double waste. Getting that Plains. And getting that Wasteland. And taking them off white here. We did take out the Tundra and now we took out the Archive. Frog's fine. Thankfully we have a free look at the top for removal, plus also the maze to make them have to have something like a Wasteland. Okay. I don't really have the option here, but I think I just need to dig a little bit. Try to find Dark Depths and removal, but no. Interesting. Sadly, just didn't really find what we needed to with the library. tough. Yeah, there are spots where Dismember is nice. Obviously, there Dismember would be in the place of Path to Exile, and we didn't see Path, so we wouldn't have seen Dismember. But I think as well, like, Path is just so good because it deals with any sort of threat from Mother of Runes to Stoneforge to all the way up to Archon if you need it to. You can feel a little bit stuck if you have the Dismember against a deck like, you know, like Reanimator where they have the Archon. Hey Fetafool, very cool to see you. Hope you're doing well. This is a nice hand because we get to turn 1 a Reclaimer and also hold up Windswept Heath, mainly for crop for Sejiri Steppe if we need to. Also Talon is there as well. Hey Nineball, a huge thank you for the follow. So I think here we're just going to go... I think we're getting rid of the Wasteland because if we don't use the crop, then we have the stage. And I do want to have both colors. And then Windswept Heath here means we have obviously crop rotation open, we have Lush Portico if that's relevant, we have a basic land if that's relevant as well. Okay. That's really nice to see. Other than this being sneak and show, I'm pretty happy with where we're at. Troll is fine. So one small thing here we want to do is, I do want to Wasteland them, but I also want to fetch here so that in their turn, if they play a land pass and we fetch, they can't Fatal Push or remove the Reclaimer before we can activate it for 2 mana. So I think here we're just going to go for Savannah and then go after this. Interesting, they didn't play Swamp. So I could use the Reclaim here. We could also just untap, play the stage, and then also hold up crop rotation in case we want to protect it. Which I don't mind. Kind of like a protect the queen situation here. I do like Reclaimer here because even if they have a daze, we can pay for it and then have crop open for protection as well. And there's daze, pitch. Okay. They put a Metamorphosis in the bin, which is pretty great if they have another one. They obviously can't Miracle this turn, which is nice. This might be an Animate Dead. Frog. Okay. In that case, I'm pretty happy to turn this Savannah into a Flagstones. Wasteland's pretty great. Happy to Wasteland them. And then we could just hold up here. There is a world where we could... we can't Endurance here. We do have access to Bojuka Bog. But we also have access to Talons. The kind of awkward thing here is that I want to use the flagstones, but I don't want to crop it away because then I'd have to float the white to be able to use the Reclaimer at the same time. So if we do crop and Reclaimer, I want to do it all at the same time. So I think we just have to pass and allow them to fly, and then probably Talons. Thankfully with this mana as well, they can't Murktide, so we don't have to think about like a Murktide being in the deck at this point. So a small thing here is that I don't want to use Reclaimer first. I want to crop first so I can play around days. So here we just want to... of course, they can't days. Yeah, that was me tunnel visioning into days. Apologies. Happy to get the Savannah. And then if they force this, they don't. Okay. Well, then in that case, I might just get the Maze of Ith. Yeah, I don't mind Maze. And then I will just get the other flagstones here to keep building. Which is a little bit tough. I think there I should have got Bojuka Bog just to turn off Reanimate, which is a pretty huge mistake actually. Luckily they didn't have it, but that's just incorrect. So like just turn off the graveyard in their controls in their step. This is a tough one as well. I think I'm happy for them to play a Wasteland. Another troll. Okay. There's a lot of good hits here for Wasteland as well from them. I think if they do nothing, I'm happy just to turn the flagstones into another green source for the endurance. Now this is pretty interesting. I don't mind Yav because it just turns on all my colors and allows these to actually be used as well. Now we're in a pretty great position because we get to hold up Reclaimer protection for Dark Depths. So they're going to Entomb. That's fine. Atraxa, okay. Now, I think here I'm pretty happy to make this. But it is tough because we have heaps of time. So what we care about is obviously Dark Depths, which is 1, 2, 3 mana. If we use that, we have 4 mana left over. We can cast Endurance around days. We could also hold up Reclaimer Bog. I'm just trying to think if there's a way where we kind of maybe go for the Dark Depths and they have a bounce spell and we can't protect it because we have we've used the Reclaimer for Bojuka Bog. The issue with Endurance is if they force it, then that's 3 mana gone, and then we only have 4 mana left. Either 2 for Reclaimer, 2 Bog, and not Depths, or Depths and then have that. The good thing is Atraxa isn't the be-all end-all, because we do have ways to get through Atraxa as well. Like Sejiri Steppe does a fantastic job at just allowing everything through that. I think here... it's actually a really good kind of like, what's the play? So I'm going to keep this. Yeah, this is a tough one. We know they run Wasteland. I think I'm happy to see what they commit to first. Obviously, we get a little bit punished if they play Wasteland, but I think all in all, it's generally fine. Okay, so they didn't play Wasteland. So that is goal number 1. Now they actually just... okay, that's very interesting. Let's go for Depths. They do have the Frog potentially to block. I don't want to cast Endurance here because I don't want to tap off the Reclaimer. Okay. So I think here we're pretty happy just to tap like this for Endurance. I guess no, because then they can just give Flying in response. Okay. Honestly, if they want to block with the Frog, they can block with the Frog. Interesting. So they're going to try to bounce before blocking, which means Sejiri Steppe. That's very interesting. I would have thought they would have blocked first, or tried to block. Well. Yeah, it's a tough one. That is a very tough one. I think, yeah, you exile, and then potentially what they could have done is also put me in a position where I make a mistake, where I actually give protection in response to them giving flying, and then they can bounce. So pretty happy with that. We like a lot of these cards, honestly. The Bauble's on the draw, maybe not so, but we'll see how that goes. Consign could have been pretty interesting. That is a triggered ability. But I feel like still you want to put the Frog in front, just in case something goes off. Just in case. Hey Strass, how did you go? What did you play? And what did you play against? Library, Liberator, Prop, a Knight. I still like the Excavator. I don't mind going down on Adepts. Still like the Library as well. It's actually a pretty tricky one. So I obviously want to have a good mix of ways to win the game and ways to interrupt them. Tokens, very cool. Nadu, I assume. It might just be the Library, but We'll go down to the knights. Sometimes knights in this matchup can just be a little bit too finicky. I do like this hand. Again, having open like Reclaimer and Crop turn 1 is pretty nice. Endurance is also pretty good. The deeps in hand is a little bit rough, but I think we're fine with that, so we'll keep this. Quick question, if you have an Echoing Deeps in your graveyard and you have another one coming into play and you copy Echoing Deeps, do you then get to copy another card? A green card would be great here. Nice, because we get to go Forest first, play around Daze, play the Mox Diamond. We now get to pitch the Echoing Deeps, we get to now play the Reclaimer, and then we have Crop Rotation open for Bojuka Bog, and if that goes to hell, then we have Endurance pitch, if really needed. They're going to force that, which is pretty interesting, so now I'm actually happy to go for the other Reclaimer, knowing that we have this as backup. To me, that feels like they're scared of Bojuka Bog, which means that they don't have something right away. Ghost Vacuum. Thankfully, Wasteland's fine on this board. And now we're really in control. Like, this is, yeah, pretty amazing. We're going to keep the fetch land around. We are going to play... We are going to play the library. Brainstorm's fine. What they could do here actually is Wasteland Windswept Heath, and in response to fetching, Daze the library. So a little bit of a misplay if they do see that line. But I like just the power of Windswept being Lush Portico. It's obviously a free shuffle off the library, which is nice. It's also Crop Rotation. If I want to get a basic Plains off this, it's also relevant. So if that's a line, I'm happy. Because they still lose the Wasteland, which is pretty good in this matchup. I think if they waste this, I'm happy to get Savannah, because we're going to be cropping it away, and I don't want to crop away the other basic forest. Yeah, I think Library's pretty good, especially you can play it on turn 1 with Mox Diamond, which is fantastic. And typically you can also pay for life a few times and win the game before it really matters. Especially if you're buying into things like Crop Rotation. You do just have ways to close out the game quicker than Maverick. Free attack here as well. There is a question if we want to crop for Wasteland on the sewers, but I think that's just a little bit too... yeah, too risky. Troll's fine. Entomb. Interesting. So they're entombing now after not doing anything. I'm also pretty happy to respect Daze here and just pitch the Endurance instead of trying to bog. Like they have 2 cards, and if it's you know, I'd much rather make them have Force and blue card than just Daze. And now we're in a fantastic position here. Also happy to go for Lush to get that little extra look on top. Bottoming like a fetch land. Ghost Vacuum. Not irrelevant, especially if they try to get back one of our creatures. We do have the Reclaimer for Bog, so is it really the case here? There is a way where, like, I would say their way to win is probably through Frog Protected. The Archon's gone, which is nice, so we're not too worried about reanimate effects. But I think we could actually just put this in the graveyard. And then look at it at a fresh 3 on top. Okay. I'm happy to keep the Karakas, probably put back the Yav. play the stage and then pass. They do have an online Wasteland, so there is a world where we want to play the stage next turn because we can copy Forest in response if they want to remove it. Ghost is kind of nice as well because it takes some pressure off Reclaimer from having to always be held up for Bojuka Bog. Like, there is a world here where they have another black source. If they have another card in hand, then they have like Fatal Push, Entomb, Reanimate. Interesting. So they're going to animate dead our endurance. This is obviously where Ghost Vacuum would have been cool, but I don't think we really care. They also tapped off the Wasteland, which is very interesting. I think we're happy just to get Flagstones here. And then we can depth the following turn. Could also get Wasteland for their Wasteland. If we get depths, we have 1 mana to play with. Yeah. Nice. Okay, nice. Oh, we were actually so close because I was thinking that if we literally drew Mox Diamond, land, Green Suns, we would have Sylvan Safekeeper plus Dark Depths, which is pretty crazy, but obviously we don't. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Yeah, we're still 1 off. But I don't mind paying for all of these. Definitely playing the Mox. I think we're getting rid of the Yav. Play the Karakas. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. I honestly don't also mind just Green Suns for a night. It's Safekeeper as well through Sejiri Steppe or like a sacrifice effect. Pretty tough spot for them. Like double cantrip I wouldn't mind seeing here. I think if they don't use the Wasteland, we just get rid of the Flagstones and get another copy of Stage. Or get our own Wasteland. I guess we have the Knight then potentially untapped to Wasteland their Wasteland and then see what they want to do. But we probably want to keep the Knight up for protection. A few things to think about. Crop rotation off the top changes things. Green Suns off the top changes things as well. So I think end of our draw step, we'll have a good think. Okay, really digging. Hey Gobby, a huge thank you for the kind words. Where are you from? Do you play Legacy and Paper? What is your scene like? We are going to use a Reclaimer here. Use the Flagstones. Go and get Savannah. And then go and get another stage. Irrelevant. Ground Seal's kind of cool. Put on top. Put on top. There's no great attacks. I also don't want to draw the card on top, but I don't want to use my creatures here. I think maybe the Savannah was the better play. Quick think, we have 11 minutes, heaps of time. Because if we go for Dark, if we use Night to find Wasteland, Wasteland them, they then try to Wasteland us, we then sacrifice the land they target to go and get Dark Depths, but then we have no protection up, which is a little bit rough. I think... Could copy their Wasteland, but that takes us a full turn to do as well. I think we're in such a good position that I think we can just get Wasteland here, and then we have 1 mana floating, and we can cast the Ground Seal. We can draw a random card. Just don't draw the 1 Dark Depths. Okay, play this for turn. Frog is fine. Oh, now they're just holding up the Dark Depths. That's interesting. Sorry, just holding up the Wasteland, which is tough because we do have Talons here. So we get to go end step, Wasteland their waste. They do nothing. Okay. Get rid of the Lush. Go and get Dark Depths. And then 1, 2, copy. Here. Put on top. We might as well pay. And then we do have like double activation for Talons. We also just have like Path and then Pro Green with backup in case they have like Submerge, because you can get Step and then you can get Echoing Deeps to copy it. So pretty happy to bounce back there. Bathroom check real quick. I'll be back. As I said before, now's a great time, if you like this content, to follow the channel here or on YouTube, or you can find me here. 1 sec. All right, Otoba. See how this goes. Okay. Pretty decent hand. Turn 1 Reclaimer. We have Endurance if needed. Ooh. Another Windswept Gamer. Okay. Another like crop rotation effect would be good. Another like 1 mana spell. No, but that's fine. I think in this case then, I want to ramp. So we want to go Forest. Probably Windswept to be fair, just because it's the extra land going into the bin off for Reclaimer as well. Yeah, that's a small error that might add up. Oh, they're playing Force. I did not expect that. I did not expect Force there. That really got me. Okay, Nadu. Interesting. This might be a pretty quick game if they just go off with Nadu. Okay. Well, we have to play the Knight. And I think we're just playing the Bog to get the land drop. Bristly is legendary, so you can Karakas it. We are playing 2 depths. Typically against the blue-black decks, I drop 1. And then have a second copy through Echoing Deeps. Yeah, typically a 2-2 split between stage and depths, but I do like the extra stage because it can hopefully copy some of our opponent's stuff as well. Okay. Do they trade the... Oh, they potentially trade the bill. No, they don't. Okay. I mean, Crop's pretty cool. Like, we could double Wasteland if that's relevant. I think here we just want to hold up the combo. They only have 1 card left. So there is a world where we just get to win through a 2020 with a little bit of protection. I don't think here we're winning if we're spending a whole turn returning the Nadu to hand. But I think if they cast like a Nomad Zone Core or Green Suns for something, then I do want to get rid of it. Okay. Green Suns for 1. I think here, sadly, we do need to... They only have 1 force. Interesting, so they have a Force of Will in hand. And they're going to Green Suns for 1 for most likely Safekeeper. So this is, yeah, pretty interesting because if they have the Safekeeper, then they obviously can get a bunch of triggers and try to find Swords to Plowshares for the crop. Let's have a quick look at this. So Talons isn't great. Karakas does return to hand at least, and they only have 2 mana here. But it does draw them a card. But I don't mind that. Could have responded here as well, like with Knight. Yeah, because then they could try to find a blue card. Oof. Yeah, I don't think we have a... I think we really need early removal there. Okay. The paths seem good. Not a whole lot else. Typically the good versions of these decks aren't running like Shuko or the Saga package. So I think it's a case of having like a little bit more removal for their stuff, but staying on the same kind of trajectory. The Bog can most likely come out. Baubles only hit Force. Like Teague does hit Force and Green Suns, which cuts off their ability. I think Gadok Teague is pretty good in this matchup, a little bit like Elves. And then it could just be an Endurance. I don't mind something like this. Yeah. Okay. I think the mana here is just a little bit too rough to keep. Okay, happy to keep this and bottom the Safekeeper. And then just go Windswept, Mox, pitch the Yav, fetch, Savannah, play Reclaimer. But then I think we're just going to hold up Swords here over Green Suns. I'd most likely like to Green Suns for a other Reclaimer. Teague, oh, draw step. I'll take this draw step off. Teague obviously great if we can get our Green Suns cast first. Not too sure what they want to cast on 2 mana. Okay. Swords. Stage isn't the worst. I like that Teague means our Sword Splashes can't be countered. That's pretty good. Oof. Still want to play the Teague because it does tax them that Karakas. Yeah. A little bit tough. tough because we're only drawing one card a turn, so even if we draw, like, it has to be Safekeeper off the top, which is a pretty big ask. And we have to be able to keep the Knight as well. Interesting. I don't think we go for Wasteland just yet. One card left. Yeah. Tough. Not too much you can do there. Maybe like Aethersworn Canonist. I think it's Dampening Matrix. Damping Matrix is pretty interesting. I believe that's the card. Yes, this one. Activated abilities of artifacts and creatures can't be activated unless they're mana abilities. Which does stop Nomads, and it does stop Bristly Bill and Safekeeper, but generally just a little bit too niche to play. Unless you play in a metagame where there's like 3 Nadus and like 12 decks, but otherwise, I don't think it does enough, unfortunately. Mystic Forge decks potentially, like maybe if you're targeting Mystic Forge and Nadu, then you've got some game for it. No colored mana here, which is a little bit unfortunate because a decent hand otherwise. Okay, happy to keep this. Probably bottom the Echoing Deeps. That way we have Library to get back into the game and Endurance to make sure we don't just die too early. Which of the City Traders we might be doing here? Okay. We do have some nice outs here, like obviously Mox Diamond off the top. And then Library to dig for basics. Chalice for 0, that's fine. Honestly, that means that no more Chrome Mox are coming down for them, which is great to know. There's Dark Depths, so if we can find Green Suns, we're in a really good position. I am going to dig here as well. Play the Depths. And then I will play Reclaimer. Yeah, Mox obviously really nice here because I've kind of gone all in on the Blood Moon effect. Still very winnable for them, but not being close to 3 mana is pretty big because obviously they're missing line drops here, which is pretty brutal. But now Green Suns up the top means we can go and find Liberator, destroy the Blood Moon, and then the Dark Depths just triggers, which is pretty sweet. We can also find a white source thanks to Reclaimer here, so I don't want to be too greedy. Put on top, put on top. I'm just going to play the Wasteland and then pass with both Crop and Reclaimer open. Alright. Get rid of the Windswept. Go and find a Plains. To be fair, because we have Endurances, we probably could have just gone for Forest there instead. I kind of like just the other Reclaimer. It allows us to hold up this Reclaimer as well. Oh, I didn't play a land, did I? Apologies, I should have played a land. That is on me. Alright, let's turn this Wasteland into a forest. And now everything's online. Just need to find a Green Suns. Nope. Play stage. We get to play Knight here, attack with one, and then hold up the other. Chalice for one is fine as well. A little bit slow. Honestly, we're so close to just getting there as well with what we have on board that 6, 11, so we need to get +6 here. So if we sacrifice a land, get another Dark Depths, that goes to the bin, that's 2 to the bin. Crop Rotation plus Echoing Deeps is another 2 to the bin. I think I'm overthinking it. I think, yeah, we just go for our colors and just keep playing pretty fair. Pretty classic to not see a Green Suns. Oh my gosh. Might as well. Attack for 10, put them down to 7, hold up Endurance. You can see as well, like, if they did have something, like some sort of pressure, and we didn't find Green Suns by now, it would be pretty rough. Really weird game. Like, Fury here only deals with one creature. Unless they have a way to, like, bog us, but then we have the Crop Rotation. Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's pretty... no, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything because, of course... Ah! Ah! Come on now. Look at that board. Look at that board. It doesn't actually... Look, sometimes, like, make your opponent not... I think they thought the Talons there would have just exiled it, but I guess otherwise the lethal's there anyway, so... Much of a muchness. I like these 6. Library's a little bit slow on the draw. Safekeeper's out. Endurance is out. Bog out. I don't think the baubles are actually quite nice against Fury. And I think there's room for them. So I don't mind going down on like a knight and potentially a Karakas. That just puts us down to 28 lands. Karakas, interesting if they are playing the list from Eternal Weekend, which includes Lelia. That I might actually just go down on a Talons and keep the Karakas as a just in case. I don't think Collector Ouphe is worth it, but it's obviously pretty interesting. Really want to have an opener with either force or removal, and I think, although this hand does kind of just go down to Magus of the Moon, it's not the worst otherwise, but I can see where it gets caught up, not having removal. Really relies on that Force of Vigor. I think the big thing to like think about is zooming out and going like, what's the plan? The plan is obviously hope they have like Termon Chalice or like, you know, Chrome Mox Land Chalice. I don't mind seeing where it goes, but I think that if this was the opening hand for an event where I was going to win money, I would mulligan this and try to find a hand with potentially, yeah, a removal and a piece of hate, but there's a high upside if they start on like Ancient Tomb, Chalice, or Chrome Mox in this case. If they go for a Blood Moon effect, I don't need to do it straight away either, because we do potentially have the ability to find Dark Depths and then go for it. But if this is just Chalice for one, then getting the 2 for 2 is pretty great. Yeah, I guess 3 for 2 because they exile a card as well. Reclaim is pretty great. Reclaimer allows us to go and find basics as well. It's a great reason to get rid of Chalice on their turn. Bauble's fine. It only really stops Mox, Diamond, and Force of Vigor, but we're kind of getting to a stage where that's not the worst. I don't mind playing Karakas here just in case they are on Lelia, and then potentially getting rid of it. I think though it's just going to be Savannah. I would kind of like them to put it on the field instead of just holding it back. If they miss on mana here as well, obviously Wasteland would be pretty sweet. Oh wow. If this is Fury, that's not that bad either. Like we just get to protect here. Could use the Talons, but I think Talons being good on attack and defense, I'm happy to use Reclaimer here. Crop's pretty sweet. We don't have access, sadly, to double green this turn. They're on 0 cards. And sadly, we can't like block and then Echoing Deeps the step, which is just a small thing. I think we're just gonna do a stage pass. Probably get rid of the Sejiri Steppe for a forest. Or even a 2020, they are on 1 card now. They probably go for the Den. Could go for Flagstones as well. If we go for Dark Depths, we then just untap with the mana for it, which is nice. We also have Hit the Den, because we can crop as well, and then potentially take them off the Ancient Tomb. I don't really know how valuable that is. It does take them off a fair bit of mana though. We have heaps of time as well. So Reclaimer in front of Den. We can then use Reclaimer once to get one land of the bin, and then we can just crop as well to get the other. So I don't mind that. I guess that means we can go and get Flagstones. So let's go block here. It's just a 3/2 creature. And then before damage, get rid of the step. Go and find Flagstones. And then get rid of the Flagstones, turn this into a 3/4. Go and get a basic Plains. And then go and get Dark Depths. Yeah, really tough situation for them. They didn't have the aggressive creature starts, which are typically very good against us. If they give us any amount of time to set up, then it's quite easy once you have the foundation of your mana, especially with Reclaimer in play. This is kind of a 6, but I don't mind it. It's a little bit underwhelming, but opponent's already mulliganed, so it's kind of hard not to just allow this. Ooh, okay. That's a little bit scary. That makes me want to play the Windswept Heath here. Paint is always a really interesting matchup. Fable's fine. Do they attack? Wow. So if we had Dryad Arbor there, I'd be very happy to attack. To block. I think because we have the Endurance, I'm happy to take them off the Shaman here. Just to stop that mana from being produced. Potentially find like a Wasteland. No. We do get to go Lush. Another Knight I'm not too interested in. There's Chaos Defiler. There's Grindstone. Okay. There's Painter. So now I do need something a little bit more. That's not going to do it. I think now they just have too much. Because we can endurance ourselves, but not great. I don't think we do enough there. The parts are good. The forces are good. The ground seal's great. Collector Ouphe. Library I can see coming out. The Karakas. Probably the Maze of Ith. Ramunap's always a tricky one. I think the Knights are a little bit slow. Swords are good. Crop Reclaimer. Safekeeper I can see coming out. If they're playing like Fury, then I could see Baubles. Obviously the Purge is pretty good as well. I don't mind just thinning a little bit. Probably 8 depths. Having the 1 should be enough. Okay. Pretty happy to keep this. I've seen a lot of painted move towards Bolt, which is a little bit rough here, but not the worst. Free attack, hold up crop if needed. This is fine. Because we get to do something pretty spicy. We get to crop here. Planes. And then we do actually have the purge into depth into purge. I mean, here we just have Liberator as well, get rid of it, but I kind of like holding up the instant speed of purge. See if they tap out on their turn. They have 3 mana. Engineer is going to be okay. That's fine. Yo. Nice. Nice. There we go. Purge doing work, which is cool. I don't think we need Fairy Macabre. Ghost Vacuum's actually pretty cool. I think Ghost Vacuum just to answer the goblins is nice to have. But you do have to consider, this does come up, Goblin Welder can switch your artifacts as well. So there is a case where like end step they could take out your Ghost Vacuum, give you back a Mox Diamond, and then go off on their turn or get something back. I'm just going to get onto the one night. Maybe a little bit too control-y from our end, but... Oh, this is a no-lander. Okay. Put back the step. Do I care about this with Ground Seal? Maybe in that case I should have gone for a... No, I can't go for a Plains. I think we just allow it. pretty that's pretty big for us. I think here it's a case of just copying the Windswept and then just passing back with crop open. Okay. And then here I want to untap with double swords for sure. Which we can do through the Windswept Heath, thankfully. I'll play the Lush, get some more knowledge about what's coming. Bog we can put in the graveyard. Happy to take this. I don't need to swords anything just yet. Play the Wasteland. I don't mind just Green Suns for Ouphe here. Hold up double sword. In response, try to swords. If they blast, try to... Oh, okay. There goes Outland Liberator and Celestial Purge. Sadly, we can't save because it's the step in hand, but that's fine here, I think. I think we're happy to try to go for Dark Depths next turn off the crop. Ground Seal doing a lot of work against Painter here. I don't think this step is worth holding back. Because it's at sorcery speed, we can't do too much to save it. I guess there is a case that we do want to crop before they grindstone us again, because we do only have that one copy of Depths. Wow. Yeah, see, even there, like, I think you should just try to hit, because you never know. But we finish 3-2, which isn't too bad. Going down to Nadu, which I think is just a little bit of a better combo deck in that it has, you know, the free spells in Force, and obviously the consistency of Brainstorm and Ponder, and a little bit easier to operate in terms of turning on Nadu. And then, yeah, the white splash in like a blue-black deck with Swords and Prismatic is pretty rough as well, but nice to beat some top decks as well, which is cool. The mana wasn't too bad tonight, but potentially the 5th fetch in probably Misty is better than the 2nd Talon Gates. Maybe that is overkill with the Maze, but you never know. Yeah, always a tricky one after just like one league, but it's been doing fairly well. The Celestial Purge came up, which is nice. Always happy to see new cards have a pretty big impact. I'm not too unhappy with how it went. I think it has a lot of game against everything. The Ground Seal as well is really nice, because I think Ground Seal against Painter especially just allows you to not care about the Welders and use your swords and keep your swords for threats you really care about, like Painter and Fury, which is nice. So by drawing a card off it as well is just so good, because it obviously replaces itself. So even if they do potentially get like a painted down and red blasted. The seal's really nice to have. So I've got a lunch to get to, so I'm gonna head. But a huge thank you to all of you for coming in and watching. A big thank you to the new followers and the new subscribers as well. I don't know. Actually, CubeCon's live, which is cool. So I'm gonna send you all over to CubeCon, which I hope you say a big hello to in chat. And yeah, enjoy that. But until then, I'll be back soon. I do have some live content going up on YouTube from the Green Sun Summit last weekend, probably tomorrow morning. So keep an eye out for that, and definitely, yeah, follow the channel if you aren't already. Catch you next time. Enjoy your weekends.